Hi, I'm Selena. I always thought family meant home, security, unconditional love. Instead, on my 30th birthday, my parents handed me a packed suitcase and a silent eviction. No thank you, no explanation. Just a cold ultimatum. You're too old to be living here. I'd paid their bills for 8 years, covered their debts, kept the lights on when their paychecks fell short, and somehow I was still disposable. But the worst part wasn't being kicked out. It was realizing I'd been used for years, and I never saw it coming. And when I finally stood up for myself, they tried to destroy me. Before we dive in, I want you to know this isn't just my story. It's the story of everyone who's ever given everything to people who gave nothing back. Because some storms don't just pass. You have to walk through them to find yourself on the other side. I pulled into the cracked driveway just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting Ridgeway, Ohio in shades of bruised purple and burnt orange. October had that way of making everything look beautiful right before it died. The wind carried the sharp bite of fall, that particular chill that sneaks under your jacket collar and wraps around your spine like a warning. I reached across the passenger seat for the cake box. $20 at the Kroger Bakery. Vanilla frosting. Happy birthday, written in crooked red icing because I hadn't wanted to correct the tired teenager behind the counter. It was my 30th birthday, and I was the only one who'd remembered to buy a cake. The house looked the same as it had every day for the past 8 years. A small, weather-worn colonial with peeling white paint and a front porch that sagged slightly to the left. My car, a 2015 Honda Civic with 140,000 miles on it, looked out of place next to my father's pristine pickup truck. That truck was only 3 years old. I'd helped with the down payment. As I pushed through the front door, something felt wrong. Not dangerous wrong, just off. The air had a sterile quality to it, thick and expectant, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. The kitchen lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in that pale, unforgiving fluorescent glow that made even healthy people look sick. Dinner was already on the table. Meatloaf, canned green beans, instant mashed potatoes from a box. The same rotation of meals I'd eaten my entire life. My mother, Verena, believed in efficiency over flavor. I hadn't even taken my coat off before my father's voice cut through the silence. "You're late." Tristram Robinson sat at the head of the table like a king surveying his disappointing kingdom. At 57, he still had the broad shoulders of the factory worker he'd once been, but years of beer and bitterness had softened everything else. His gray hair was thinning, combed over in a way that fooled no one. I set the cake box down on the counter, the plastic bag crinkling louder than I intended. Worked late. Had to finish up some reports before the weekend. My voice came out flat, measured. No apology. I'd learned years ago that apologizing to Tristram was like feeding a stray dog. It only made him expect more. Verena didn't look up from her plate. She sat to Tristram's right, her thin fingers wrapped around a fork, pushing food around without eating. At 55, my mother had the kind of faded prettiness that spoke of a youth spent waiting for life to begin. It never had. I hung my coat on the hook by the door and slid into my usual seat, the one facing the kitchen where I could see the dishes piling up in the sink. Those would be my job after dinner. They always were. Dinner started with the usual symphony, knives scraping against chipped ceramic plates, the dull clink of glasses, an occasional forced cough. No happy birthday, no acknowledgement of any kind, just the mechanical rhythm of chewing and swallowing. I lifted my fork and pushed a sad clump of potatoes around my plate, watching the butter substitute, because real butter was too expensive, even though I paid for groceries, pool in the divots I created. I should have known something was coming. Tristram wasn't the type to simmer quietly for long. He'd been too calm when I walked in, too focused on his plate. Halfway through his meatloaf, he slammed his fork down hard enough that Verena jumped in her seat. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. I felt it in my chest. He leaned back in his chair, the wood creaking under his weight, and stared at me like I was something he'd found stuck to his shoe. "You're too old to be freeloading." The words hung in the air, sharp and rehearsed. "It's time you left." For a second, maybe two. The words didn't connect. They floated there. Unreal. like dialogue from a movie I was watching rather than living. I blinked at him, then at Verena, hoping, stupidly, desperately hoping for some contradiction, some sign this was just another one of his drunken rants. She kept her eyes down, her lips pressed together so tightly they'd gone white. "I pay the internet bill," I said carefully, my voice still steady. "Facts. I could anchor myself in facts. The electricity, 60% of the mortgage, groceries." The words laid out between us like evidence at a crime scene. Neat. Undeniable. Tristram laughed. It was a short, sharp bark that felt like a slap across the face. "Paying a few bills doesn't buy you a lifetime stay, Princess." Princess. The nickname he'd used when I was 7 years old, climbing into his lap with scraped knees and lopsided pigtails, believing he could fix anything. Now it was a weapon. Mocking. Cruel. Something cracked in my chest, but I didn't let it show. "When?" The word came out harder than I intended. "Tonight." Tristram took a long swig of his whiskey, the cheap stuff, Jim Beam, which I also paid for. "Your bags are already packed. Living room." I turned slowly, and there they were. My 2 suitcases, the ones I'd bought for a vacation I'd canceled 3 years ago because Verena needed a new alternator. They sat by the front door like obedient dogs waiting for their owner. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. This was calculated, planned. They'd gone through my room, touched my things, packed my life into 2 bags while I was at work. They'd waited until my birthday to do it. The cruelty of that timing settled over me like a weight. My birthday wasn't a celebration. It was a deadline. I pushed my plate away. The meatloaf, the cake still in its bag on the counter, the heaviness in my chest, it all sat in my stomach like concrete. "Got it," I said, standing up slowly. Tristram smirked like he'd won some invisible contest. Verena's shoulders hunched further, shame pooling in the curve of her spine, but not enough shame to make her speak. Not enough to stop this. I walked toward the stairs, my footsteps deliberate. As I passed the counter, I saw it, a small envelope tucked half under the cake box. I picked it up. Inside was $500 bills and a note in Verena's careful handwriting. "For first month's rent. This doesn't make it right, but it's all I can do. I'm sorry." For a moment, something flickered in my chest. Not hope, exactly, but maybe understanding? My mother knew this was wrong. She knew, and she'd tried in her small, insufficient way to. "She doesn't need your guilt money." Tristram's hand shot out and snatched the envelope from my fingers. He crumpled it in his fist, bills and all, and shoved it into his pocket. "You want to help her, Verena? Don't. She made her choices. She can live with them." My mother's face crumpled, but she said nothing. She never did. And in that moment, I understood something I'd spent 30 years refusing to see. Verena wasn't just a victim of Tristram's cruelty. She was complicit in it. Her silence was a choice. Her weakness was a weapon she wielded just as effectively as his anger. I turned and climbed the stairs. My bedroom looked like it had been ransacked. Drawers hung open, closet doors ajar. They'd been thorough. Anything they deemed theirs, gifts they'd given me, old furniture, had been left behind. Everything I'd bought myself was packed or piled by the door. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the suitcases. 8 years in this house. 8 years of sacrifice, of covering their mistakes, of swallowing my own dreams so they could have theirs. The memories came unbidden. Tristram's cracked molar, winter of 2019. Because he'd been in a bar fight and couldn't afford the dentist. I paid $2,400 cash. Verena's bald tires that slid off the road in a snowstorm. I bought her a whole new set and paid for the tow. $800. The roof leak last spring. Me on a ladder in the pouring rain, hammering shingles while Tristram sat inside with a beer, shouting about how you can't trust contractors these days. Every memory was a bill I'd paid, a problem I'd solved, a piece of myself I'd given away thinking it would be enough. Thinking eventually they'd see me, value me, love me the way parents were supposed to love their children. But I'd never been their daughter. I'd been their ATM. I pulled out my laptop and opened it on the nightstand. The screen bathed the room in cold blue light. My hands moved on autopilot. I'd been preparing for this moment without knowing it. First, I took screenshots. Every bill in my name, every bank statement showing transfers to their accounts, 8 years of documentation organized by month and year. Electric bills, AEP Ohio, account holder Selena Robinson. Average monthly cost, $200 in summer, $350 in winter. Water and sewage, City of Ridgeway Utilities. Auto pay from my checking account, $85 per month. Internet and cable, Spectrum, $89.99 monthly. In my name since 2018 when they'd let it lapse and gotten sent to collections. Mortgage, joint account, but the statements showed a clear pattern, $1,350 per month. I paid $800. They paid $550. 60-40 split. Car insurance, both their vehicles on my policy to save money. My rates had doubled. I found old emails too, texts, a digital paper trail of every time they'd asked for help and never paid me back. Can you cover the payment this month? I'm short. You know I'm good for it. Tristram, April 2022. He'd never been good for it. Honey, I hate to ask, but could you grab groceries this week? Dad's check was smaller than usual. Verena, every other week for the past 3 years. As I copied files to a cloud drive, something caught my eye. An email from January 2017, shortly after I'd moved back home after college. The subject line, "We need you." I opened it. "Selena, Mom's been having health issues. The doctors aren't sure what's wrong yet, but she needs someone here. I know you were planning to get your own place in Columbus, but family takes care of family. We need you home. Please. Dad." I stared at the screen. I'd dropped everything. Given up the apartment I'd put a deposit on. Postponed my life. For what? I pulled up Verena's medical records. She'd given me access years ago to manage her appointments. I scrolled through 2017. Annual checkup, normal. Blood work, normal. Follow-up visit for fatigue. Recommended iron supplements and more sleep. She'd never been seriously ill. It had been a lie. A manipulation. A way to guilt me into coming home so they could stop worrying about bills. I closed the laptop slowly. The sadness I'd been holding back crystallized into something harder, colder, clearer. I wasn't leaving because I'd done something wrong. I was leaving because staying would kill me. I stood, grabbed my suitcases, and took one last look at the room I'd lived in for 8 years. The walls were still the same pale yellow from my teenage years. Posters long gone, but the tape marks remained. A ghost room for a ghost daughter. I walked out without looking back. The living room couch at Jordan Hayes' apartment wasn't comfortable, but it was mine. Or at least, it was mine for now. Jordan had opened her door at 9 p.m., taken one look at me standing there with 2 suitcases and a cake box, and simply said, "About damn time." Now it was nearly 1 in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. I sat cross-legged on that lumpy couch, laptop balanced on my knees, the glow of the screen the only light in the dark apartment. Jordan was asleep in her bedroom. She had a shift at Ridgeway Medical Center at 7, and nurses learned to sleep whenever they could. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I'd spent the last hour staring at account login screens, wrestling with guilt that twisted in my gut like a knife. "They're your parents," a voice whispered. "You can't just abandon them." But another voice, quieter but growing stronger, said, "They abandoned you first. You're just making it official." I pulled up the electric bill first. AEP Ohio. Account number 884721934401. Account holder, Selena M. Robinson. The cursor blinked next to auto pay settings. My hand shook slightly as I clicked. I didn't cancel the account. That would be too far, too cruel, the kind of scorched earth tactic that would make me the villain in this story. Instead, I did something simpler. I removed my bank account from AutoPay and set a notification date for 30 days from now. A pop-up appeared. "Are you sure you want to remove auto payment? Your account may be interrupted if payment is not received." I clicked yes. The same process for water, for gas, for internet and cable. Each click felt like cutting an invisible thread that had been strangling me for years. The car insurance was harder. Both my parents' vehicles were on my policy. Tristram's 2021 Ford F-150 and Verena's 2016 Toyota Camry. I'd added them 3 years ago to help out, and somehow it had become permanent. My rates had gone from $120 a month to $340. I called the insurance company's 24-hour line. Progressive Insurance, this is Derek. How can I help you tonight? Hi, I need to remove 2 vehicles from my policy. Sure thing. Can I get your policy number? I rattled it off, then provided the VINs for both vehicles. Okay, Ms. Robinson. Just to confirm, you want to remove the 2021 F-150 and 2016 Camry from your policy effective when? Immediately. There was a pause. Just so you're aware, if these vehicles don't have other coverage, they'll be uninsured. They can't legally be driven without... I understand. Another pause. All right, your new premium will be $118 per month. You'll see a refund for the difference on your next billing cycle. Thank you. I hung up. The mortgage was more complicated. It was a joint account, my name and Tristram's both on the loan documents. I couldn't simply remove my payments without refinancing, which would require his cooperation, but I could stop the auto pay and let him figure it out. I pulled up the bank account, the joint checking account Verena had insisted on years ago, for emergencies. I'd been depositing my paychecks there, keeping only enough in my personal account for gas and the occasional coffee. Balance, $3,847.22. I transferred $3,600 to my personal savings account, leaving exactly $247.22, enough to cover the automatic mortgage payment that would hit in 3 days and nothing more. Then I removed my name from all future deposits to that account. Finally, I pulled up the list of shared accounts. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, even Spotify. All paid from my credit card, all used daily by my parents. Cancel, cancel, cancel. The last one was my Amazon account. I'd set the shipping address to their house years ago, and Verena had developed a shopping habit that bordered on compulsive. QVC jewelry, kitchen gadgets she'd never use, decorative pillows for a couch that was falling apart. I changed the shipping address to Jordan's apartment, then removed their access to my Prime benefits. When I was done, I leaned back against the couch cushions and stared at the ceiling. I'd just dismantled 8 years of financial entanglement in less than 2 hours. And I felt not guilty, not yet. I felt light. I woke to pale morning light filtering through Jordan's curtains and the smell of coffee. My neck ached from the couch, and for a moment I forgot where I was. Then it all came back. I pushed myself up and found Jordan in the kitchen, wearing scrubs and pulling her dark hair into a ponytail. "Coffee's fresh," she said, nodding toward the pot. "Figured you'd need it." I poured myself a cup, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. "What time is it?" 6:30. I'm heading out in 15. You good here by yourself? Yeah, I'm good. Jordan studied me for a moment, her brown eyes sharp with concern. We'd been friends since sophomore year of college, roommates our senior year. She knew me better than anyone. You did the right thing, Selena. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I mean it. I've been watching this happen for years. They've been bleeding you dry, and you've been letting them because you thought that's what family meant. She grabbed her keys from the counter. It's not. Family isn't supposed to hurt. After she left, I sat in the quiet apartment, drinking coffee and trying to figure out what came next. I had work in 2 hours. My job as an administrative assistant at the Ridgeway County office paid $38,000 a year. Decent for a small town in Ohio, but not enough to save much after covering my parents' expenses. Now, for the first time in 8 years, my entire paycheck would be mine. The thought should have excited me. Instead, it felt strange, unnatural, like wearing someone else's clothes. Around 8 a.m., I made a decision. I drove back to the house. The truck was gone. Tristram must have left early, probably to the VFW hall where he spent most mornings drinking coffee and complaining about the world. Verena's Camry sat in the driveway. I parked across the street, grabbed the envelope I'd prepared, and walked to the front door. I didn't knock. I just slid the envelope through the mail slot and listened to it hit the floor inside. Inside that envelope, a printed list of every account I'd canceled or modified, all relevant account numbers and customer service phone numbers. A note: all auto pay settings will end in 30 days. You have time to set up your own payments. Good luck. I'd included the passwords to everything. I wasn't trying to destroy them, I was just stopping. As I turned to leave, the front door opened behind me. Selena. Verena stood in the doorway wearing a faded bathrobe, her graying hair uncombed. She looked smaller than I remembered, older. Mom. We stared at each other across the porch, morning dew glistening on the rotting wood between us. He wasn't always like this, she said quietly. After he lost his job at the plant, he changed. That was 12 years ago, Mom. How long is that an excuse? Her face crumpled. I know it's not. Her voice broke. I'm sorry, Selena. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped him, should have stood up for you. I was scared. Scared of what? Of being alone, of admitting I wasted my life with someone who... She couldn't finish. I felt something twist in my chest. Not forgiveness, but maybe understanding. I know you're sorry, Mom, but sorry doesn't pay the bills I covered. Sorry doesn't give me back my 20s, the years I spent taking care of you instead of building my own life. Tears slid down her cheeks. I know. The envelope has everything you need, 30 days before anything stops. That's more than you gave me. I turned to leave. Selena? I looked back. I'm proud of you, Verena whispered, for being stronger than I ever was. I didn't respond. I just walked to my car, got in, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I watched her standing on that porch, alone, getting smaller and smaller until she disappeared entirely. Jordan's apartment was a one-bedroom, maybe 650 square feet on the second floor of a converted house downtown. It was small, but it was clean and bright, with plants on every windowsill and mismatched furniture that somehow worked together. She'd cleared space for me in the living room, pushing her coffee table against the wall to make room for my suitcases. A blanket and pillow waited on the couch. It's not much, she'd said last night, but it's yours as long as you need it. I unpacked slowly, creating small piles of my life. Clothes in one corner, toiletries in another. The cake box, still unopened, sat on top of my suitcase like an accusation. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from my supervisor at work. Hey, Selena, just confirming you're still coming in Monday. Let me know if you need anything. Carol Henderson was the kind of boss who actually cared about her employees. She'd noticed when I'd been stressed, when I'd been taking on too much. I'd always deflected, made excuses. I texted back. I'll be there. Thanks, Carol. Another buzz. This time, a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Selena, this is Rachel Morrison. I don't know if you remember me. I lived next door to your parents for 15 years. I heard what happened. If you need anything, please reach out. You deserve better. Rachel. I stared at the message. Rachel Morrison. I remembered her vaguely. A quiet woman with graying hair who'd always been kind, waving when I'd been out shoveling the driveway or taking out the trash. She'd moved away 2 years ago. How had she heard already? Small towns, I supposed. News traveled fast. I saved her number but didn't respond. I wasn't ready to talk about it yet. Jordan came home around 6, exhausted from her shift, carrying takeout from the Thai place downtown. Pad Thai and spring rolls, she announced, dropping the bag on the counter. And before you say anything, yes, you're paying me back, but not tonight. Tonight we eat like normal people who don't have asshole parents. We ate on the couch, watching some mindless Netflix show, not really talking. It felt normal, easy, like maybe I could actually have a life that wasn't defined by crisis and obligation. So, Jordan said eventually, twirling noodles around her fork. What's the plan? Find my own place, start saving, figure out what comes next. You thought about grad school? You always talked about maybe getting your social work degree. I had. Years ago, before family obligations became the excuse for everything I didn't do. Maybe, I said. First, I need to just breathe. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not fixing everyone else's problems. Jordan raised her water glass. To breathing, and to never apologizing for saving yourself. I clinked my glass against hers. That night, lying on the couch in the dark, I stared at the ceiling and waited for the guilt to come. For the voice that would tell me I was selfish, cruel, ungrateful. It didn't come. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Possibility. The first 3 days were quiet. Too quiet. No phone calls. No texts. No angry voicemails or guilt-laden messages. Nothing. I went to work Monday morning, sat at my desk in the county office, and processed permits and filed paperwork like I'd done every day for the past 6 years. Familiar. Routine. Safe. My coworkers noticed something was different. I could see it in the way they looked at me. Sarah from accounting asked if I'd done something new with my hair. Mike from permits said I seemed lighter somehow. I smiled and made vague responses, but I knew what they were seeing. A person who'd been drowning finally coming up for air. Tuesday was the same. Work, lunch at my desk, home to Jordan's apartment. I'd started looking at rental listings online, small studios and one-bedrooms in Ridgeway. Most were $600 to $700 a month, affordable now that I wasn't covering someone else's mortgage. Wednesday, I drove past the house on my way home from work. I didn't plan to. It was just the route I'd always taken. Muscle memory. The lights were on inside, both cars in the driveway. Everything looked normal from the outside. I wondered if they'd figured out the bills yet, if they'd called the utility companies, set up their own payments. Part of me, the part that had spent years fixing their problems, wanted to check, to make sure they were okay. I kept driving. That evening, I found an apartment, a small one-bedroom on Oak Street, 3 blocks from downtown. Hardwood floors, a tiny kitchen, windows that let in actual sunlight. The landlord said I could move in November 1st. First month and deposit, he said. $1,400 total. I had it. For the first time in my adult life, I had savings that were actually mine. I'll take it. When I told Jordan, she hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Proud of you, she whispered. That night, I ate the birthday cake. It was dry and the frosting was too sweet, but I ate it anyway, sitting on Jordan's couch, watching the lights of downtown Ridgeway twinkle outside the window. 30 years old, starting over. It felt like a beginning. Thursday morning, 6:47 a.m., my phone rang. I was in Jordan's shower, so I didn't hear it. When I got out, I had 5 missed calls. All from Verena. My stomach clenched. I sat on the edge of the couch, water dripping from my hair onto my shoulders, and stared at the screen. 6 voicemails. I pressed play on the first one. Selena, honey, it's Mom. The power went out this morning. I called AEP and they said the account is closed. That can't be right, can it? Must be some kind of mistake. Can you call them? I tried, but they said only the account holder can. Anyway, call me back. Love you. Her voice was nervous, but not panicked. Not yet. The second voicemail was from later that morning. Selena, it's Mom again. The power's still out. All the food in the fridge is going to spoil. Your father's getting upset. Please call back. Third voicemail, time-stamped 11:23 a.m. Selena, I don't know what's going on, but we need you to call us back. The internet isn't working either, and your father tried to call the cable company, but they said, just call us, please. I could hear Tristram shouting in the background of that one. Fourth voicemail, 2:17 p.m. This one was Tristram. You think you're teaching us some kind of lesson? This is childish, Selena. Grow up and call back. Fix this now. His voice was hard, angry, but underneath it I heard something else. Fear. Fifth voicemail, 8:34 p.m. Verena again, crying. Baby, please, your father hasn't eaten properly. Everything in the fridge spoiled. We had to throw it all away. I know you're upset with us, but please don't do this. We're sorry. We're so sorry. Just come home. We can work this out. We're family. The sixth voicemail was from 11:56 p.m. Selena, it's Mom. Your father. He had chest pains tonight. We went to the emergency room. They're running tests. He's scared. I'm scared. Please call me back. My hands went numb. Chest pains. Emergency room. The old guilt surged up, hot and acidic. What if he dies? What if this is your fault? I was halfway through dialing the hospital when I stopped. Wait. I pulled up the Ridgeway General Hospital patient portal on my phone. I was still listed as Tristram's emergency contact. They'd made me that years ago for insurance purposes. I logged in, navigated to his records. There it was. Admission from last night, 10:43 p.m. Discharge at 1:17 a.m. I clicked on the discharge summary. Patient presenting with chest pain and shortness of breath. EKG normal. Cardiac enzymes negative. Chest X-ray clear. Diagnosis: acute anxiety attack. Patient expressed concern about recent financial stress. Recommended follow-up with primary care physician. Discharged in stable condition with prescription for Ativan. Not a heart attack, an anxiety attack. He'd gone to the hospital because he was stressed about money, about bills he'd never had to worry about because I'd always handled them. And Verena had called me, voice trembling with fear, knowing I'd see emergency room and come running. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt used. I didn't call back. By Friday afternoon, I had 43 missed calls and 18 voicemails. I listened to them in order, sitting at my desk during lunch break, each one a tiny knife in my chest. Verena, he's not eating. He just sits in his chair. Please, Selena. Tristram, you're killing your mother with this stunt. Unknown number turned out to be my Aunt Marcy. I don't know what's going on between you and your parents, but family doesn't abandon family. Your father's heart isn't strong. Think about what you're doing. Another unknown number, Uncle Phil. Selena, it's Uncle Phil. Your mom called me crying. Whatever happened, you need to be the bigger person here. They raised you. They deserve respect. On and on. A chorus of guilt, each voice adding another layer of pressure. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should just go back and apologize and… My phone buzzed with a text. Jordan, don't you dare. I can see you spiraling from here. Come home. Now. I texted back. How did you know? Because I know you, and because your mom called me. I drove back to the apartment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Jordan was waiting, sitting on the front steps of the building, still in her scrubs. She called me at work, Jordan said as I sat down beside her. Used the hospital directory to find me. Said she was worried about you, that you weren't answering, that I should check on you. What did you say? I said you were fine, that you were exactly where you needed to be. Jordan turned to face me. Selena, this is manipulation. Classic. They're cycling through every guilt tactic in the book. Fear, worry, family obligation, getting relatives involved. Uncle Phil said my dad's heart isn't strong. Your dad had an anxiety attack, not a cardiac event. You checked the records. You know this. But what if… No. Jordan's voice was firm. No what-ifs. They're using your kindness as a weapon. That hospital visit? That was strategic. And your mom calling me? That's escalation. They're testing you, seeing what gets a response. I knew she was right. Logically, I knew. But 8 years of conditioning doesn't disappear in 4 days. My phone buzzed. Another text. This time from a number saved as Tyler R. Tyler, my cousin, Tristram's nephew. We'd been close as kids, but I hadn't talked to him in years. I opened the message. Internet's down at my place too. Dad says your dad told him you canceled all the family accounts? That's cold, Sel. They're your parents. I stared at the message, anger finally breaking through the guilt. I typed back. Did he mention they kicked me out on my birthday? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. What? I sent him a screenshot. The discharge summary from Tristram's hospital visit showing financial stress as the presenting concern. Then another screenshot. My bank statement from August showing $800 to their mortgage, $200 to electric, $85 to water, $90 to internet. Then another, and another. 8 months of receipts and statements and proof. Finally, I texted. I didn't abandon them. I stopped letting them use me. 10 minutes passed. Then Tyler responded. Holy shit! I had no idea. Uncle Tris said you just left without warning. Said you'd been difficult lately. This is… Sel, I'm sorry. I felt something shift in my chest. Not victory, just validation. Thanks for listening, I texted back. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. And Sel, your dad told my mom to fake chest pains if calling you didn't work. I heard him on the phone. I read that message 3 times. Fake chest pains. The hospital visit had been real, but it had also been calculated. A performance designed to manipulate me into coming back. I showed the message to Jordan. She didn't say anything, just wrapped an arm around my shoulders and pulled me close. That night, I went through my phone methodically. Tristram, blocked. Verena, blocked. Aunt Marcy, blocked. Uncle Phil, blocked. Every relative who'd called to lecture me without asking for my side of the story, blocked. I kept Tyler's number, and Rachel Morrison's, the former neighbor who'd reached out with kindness instead of judgment. When I was done, I had deleted or blocked 23 contacts. It felt like closing a door I'd been holding open for years, hoping someone would finally walk through and see me. No one had, so I closed it myself. I crawled onto Jordan's couch, pulled the blanket up to my chin, and for the first time in days, I slept through the night. I woke up Saturday morning to 47 text notifications. Not from my parents. I'd blocked those numbers. These were from people I hadn't talked to in years. High school classmates, former coworkers, distant acquaintances, all saying variations of the same thing. Is everything okay? Saw your dad's post. Praying for your family. My stomach dropped. I opened Facebook for the first time in weeks. The app loaded slowly, and for a moment I hoped maybe it was nothing. Maybe just a vague post about family struggles, the kind everyone makes sometimes. Then I saw it. Tristram's post, shared in the Ridgeway Community Connect group. 8,500 members, practically the entire town. The post had been up for 3 hours and already had 237 reactions and 89 comments. Heartbroken doesn't begin to describe it. After 30 years of sacrificing everything for our daughter, paying for her college, giving her a home, supporting her dreams, she abandoned us. Won't return calls, cut off our utilities. My wife and I are both in our late 50s dealing with health issues, and our own daughter left us in the dark. Literally. Verena and I don't understand what we did wrong. We loved her. We gave her everything we had. And now, when we need her most, she's gone. If anyone knows Selena Robinson, please tell her we love her and just want to talk. We miss our little girl. Attached was a photo I hadn't seen in years. Me at maybe 10 years old, Christmas morning, wearing footy pajamas decorated with snowflakes. Tristram and Verena on either side of me, all of us smiling at the camera. Back when I still believed in Santa Claus and happy families. The photo was a lie, a performance, but it was effective. I scrolled through the comments, each one making my chest tighter. This generation has no respect. My heart breaks for you both. Praying for your family. Children today are so ungrateful. I can't imagine abandoning my parents like that. What is wrong with kids these days? But mixed in were other voices. I went to school with Selena. She was always responsible and kind. This doesn't sound like her. There must be more to the story. Not to be that person, but there's always two sides. Maybe we should hear hers before judging. I've known the Robinsons for years. Tristram's version of events is usually generous to himself. Still, the sympathetic comments outnumbered the skeptical ones 3-1. I set the phone down, hands shaking. Jordan emerged from her bedroom, took one look at my face, and said, "What happened?" I showed her. She read in silence, her jaw getting tighter with each scroll. When she finished, she looked up at me with fury in her eyes. "This is a declaration of war." He made me look like a monster. No, he tried to make you look like a monster. There's a difference. Jordan handed the phone back. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I stared at the screen, at my father's carefully crafted narrative, at the flood of judgment from people who didn't know the truth. My first instinct was to stay silent, to let it blow over, to avoid making it worse. But that's what I'd been doing my whole life, staying quiet, keeping the peace, letting other people tell my story. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a notification. A private message on Facebook from Rachel Morrison. Selena, I saw your father's post. I need to tell you something I should have said years ago. I have documentation. Can I call you? My hands trembled as I typed back. Yes, please. 30 seconds later, my phone rang. Selena, hi. It's Rachel. Her voice was warm but urgent. I don't have much time. I'm at work, but I needed to reach you before this gets worse. You saw the post. Everyone saw the post. It's been shared to 3 other local groups. She paused. Selena, I lived next to your family for 15 years. I watched what happened. I should have said something then, but I didn't think it was my place. I was wrong. What do you mean? I mean, I watched you shovel their driveway at 6 in the morning before work while your father slept in. I watched you pay contractors to fix their roof in 2021. I heard, God, Selena, I heard your father bragging about it. My breath caught. Bragging? Summer of 2019. Neighborhood barbecue at the Hendersons' place. Tristram had a few beers and started talking about how he had it figured out. Said, and I quote, "Why would I work overtime when my daughter covers everything? She's got a steady paycheck and no kids. Might as well put it to good use." The words hit me like a physical blow. My husband, Don, he's an accountant. He noticed when your name started showing up on their mortgage payments. Public records. He mentioned it to me, said it seemed odd for someone your age to be covering that much of their parents' house. I should have checked on you. Should have asked if you were okay. It's not your fault. It is, though. Not legally, but morally. I watched you carry that weight for years, and I stayed silent because I didn't want to get involved. Her voice cracked. I'm not staying silent anymore. What do you need from me? I looked at Jordan, who was listening to my side of the conversation with wide eyes. I don't know, I admitted. He's already gotten half the town on his side. Then let's tell them the truth. I'm commenting on that post, right now, and I'm not holding back. Rachel, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I've been carrying guilt about this for 2 years, ever since I moved away. This is my chance to do what I should have done then. Stand up for you. After we hung up, I refreshed the Facebook post. A new comment, posted 2 minutes ago from Rachel Morrison's account. Tristram, I lived next door to you for 15 years. I watched Selena shovel your driveway at 6 a.m. before work while you slept in. I watched her pay contractors to fix your roof while you sat inside drinking beer. I heard you brag at the Hendersons' BBQ about how you didn't need to work overtime because she covered your bills. I stayed silent then, and I've regretted it every day since I moved away. But I won't stay silent now. That girl gave you everything. She paid for your utilities, your mortgage, your repairs. She sacrificed her 20s to keep you comfortable, and you thanked her by kicking her out on her birthday. Selena, if you're reading this, I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. You deserved better. You still do. The comment had been up for less than 5 minutes and already had 43 likes. Other comments started appearing beneath it. Wait, what? Is this true? I remember that BBQ. I heard Tristram say something like that too. Thought he was joking. I sold Selena a car in 2020. She paid for her mother's Toyota Camry. $8,500 cash. Never saw a penny from Tristram. The tide was starting to turn. Jordan read over my shoulder. Rachel just threw a grenade into your dad's narrative. What do I do now? Now? Now you tell your side, with evidence. Facts don't care about his feelings, and neither should you. I spent the next 3 hours at Jordan's kitchen table, building my case. Not an emotional rant, not a defensive explanation. Just cold, hard facts. I created a Google Drive folder and set it to Anyone with Link Can View. Then I started uploading. Screenshots of electric bills for the past 12 months. Account holder, Selena M. Robinson. Average cost, $250 per month. Water and sewage bills, same story. Mortgage statements showing the 60-40 split. Total I'd paid over 8 years, $76,800. Receipts from home repairs I'd funded. New roof, $4,200. HVAC repair, $1,800. Plumbing emergency, $950. Text messages from Tristram. Can you cover the payment this month? I'm short. Never paid back. The hospital discharge summary from his heart attack that was actually an anxiety attack caused by financial stress. Screenshots of my student loan account. $43,000 borrowed for college. $39,200 remaining. I'd been paying it myself. They'd never contributed a dollar. I created a simple spreadsheet. 8 years of support, 2016 to 2024. Category total amount mortgage, 60%. $76,800. Utilities, electric/water/gas, $24,000 internet/cable, $8,640. Car insurance, $7,920. Home repairs, $8,350. Medical bills, Tristram, $2,400. Vehicle repairs, Verena, $3,200. Miscellaneous emergencies, $4,690. Total, $136,000. $136,000, more than 3 years of my gross salary. At the bottom of the spreadsheet, I added one line. I gave them 30 days' notice before stopping autopay. I left detailed instructions and account information. I didn't abandon them. I stopped letting them use me. I looked at Jordan. Should I post this? She studied the screen. That depends. Do you want to embarrass them, or do you want to tell the truth? What's the difference? Embarrassment is petty. Truth is powerful. She pointed at the spreadsheet. This is truth, but you need to frame it right. Not as revenge, as correction. She was right. I opened Facebook and started typing. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. Since my family situation has been made public without my consent, here are the facts. For 8 years, I financially supported my parents while working full-time. I paid 60% of their mortgage, all utilities, insurance, and handled emergency repairs. I did this because I was told it was my duty as a daughter, because family takes care of family. On my 30th birthday, my father told me I was too old to freeload and asked me to leave immediately. My bags were already packed. I gave them 30 days' notice before ending autopay on accounts in my name. I provided all necessary information to transfer services. I didn't cut them off without warning. I gave them more notice than they gave me. I'm sharing this not for sympathy or revenge, but because truth matters. I don't owe anyone an explanation, but since one side of the story has been told, here's the other. I loved my parents. I still do. But love shouldn't cost $136,000 and your entire 20s. Evidence available here. Link to Google Drive. To everyone who reached out with concern, thank you. To those who judged without knowing the facts, I hope you never find yourself in a situation where you have to choose between family and survival. I hovered over post for a long moment. Once I do this, there's no taking it back, I said. Jordan squeezed my shoulder. Good. Some things shouldn't be taken back. I hit post. The post exploded. Within 20 minutes, 87 reactions, 45 shares, 62 comments. Within an hour, 340 reactions, 150 shares, 180 comments. People were downloading the evidence, sharing screenshots. The conversation was shifting from ungrateful daughter to exploited child. But the real turning point came when Rachel Morrison commented again. Since we're sharing facts, I have copies of contractor invoices from repairs Selena paid for. She used Don's business email to coordinate. He's an accountant, helped her keep records. I'm attaching them here with her permission. 2021 roof repair, $4,200. Paid by Selena Robinson. 2020 HVAC, emergency, $1,800. Paid by Selena Robinson. 2019 plumbing, $950. Paid by Selena Robinson. These are just the ones I personally witnessed. I'm sure there are more. I watched Tristram sit on his porch drinking beer while contractors worked. I watched him brag about not having to work extra because his daughter had it covered. I heard Verena tell my husband that Selena was so good with money and it just made sense for her to handle the bills. This wasn't a daughter helping out. This was systematic financial exploitation. And before anyone asks why I didn't say something sooner, that's a question I ask myself every day. The answer is, I was a coward. I didn't want to get involved. I told myself it was their family business. I was wrong. Selena, you deserved someone to speak up for you years ago. I'm sorry it took me this long. The comment got 290 likes in 15 minutes. Other neighbors started commenting. I'm Carol from 3 Doors Down. I remember when their heat got cut off in winter 2017. Selena came straight home from work and paid the reconnection fee. $380 cash. Tristram was at McGinty's bar. "This is Mike Henderson. That BBQ Rachel mentioned? I was there. I heard exactly what Tristram said. Thought it was a joke at the time. Guess it wasn't. I worked at Ridgeway Hardware. Selena bought materials for that roof repair, paid with her credit card. Asked if we offered a payment plan because it was expensive. We should have asked more questions." The chorus grew. People who'd seen things, noticed things, stayed quiet at the time but weren't staying quiet anymore. Even people who'd initially commented on Tristram's post started backtracking. "I commented earlier without knowing the full story. I'm sorry, Selena. Your father painted a very different picture." Deleting my previous comment, "This is way more complicated than I thought." But not everyone was convinced. Some of Tristram's friends doubled down. "Y'all are believing some bitter girl's version without questioning it? Tristram and Verena raised her, fed her. She lived there rent-free for years." To which someone responded, "She paid 60% of the mortgage. That's more than rent would cost. Check the evidence she posted. It's all documented." The battle lines were drawn, but for the first time, I wasn't fighting alone. By Sunday afternoon, my post had been shared 400 times and had reached people outside Ridgeway. A reporter from the Columbus Dispatch sent me a message. "Would you be willing to talk about financial exploitation in family systems? I'm working on a piece about adult children trapped by family obligation." A lawyer from Cleveland. "If you need legal advice regarding financial recovery, I offer free consultations." A local women's support group. "We'd love to have you speak at our next meeting. So many women go through this silently." But the message that mattered most came from someone I'd forgotten about. Amanda Chin. Wait, can't use Chin. Amanda Bristol, former guidance counselor at Ridgeway High School. "Selena, I don't know if you remember me. I was your counselor senior year. You came into my office once, spring of 2012, and asked about college scholarships. You were so excited about Ohio State's social work program. Then 2 weeks later, you came back and said you were staying local, going to Ridgeway Community College. You said it was a family decision. I asked if everything was okay, and you smiled that smile I'd seen on so many kids, the one that says, 'Please don't ask more questions.' I should have asked more questions. I'm proud of you for speaking up now, and for what it's worth, it's not too late for that social work degree. I still have connections at OSU if you ever want to revisit that dream." I sat on Jordan's couch, reading that message 3 times, feeling something crack open in my chest. I'd forgotten about that dream, buried it under so many years of family comes first, and maybe later, and it's not the right time. What would my life look like if I'd gone to Ohio State? If I'd said no to moving home? If I'd chosen myself just once? Jordan found me crying on the couch an hour later. "What happened? Did someone say something awful?" "No." I wiped my eyes. "Someone reminded me who I used to be, before." I showed her Amanda's message. Jordan read it, then looked at me with something fierce in her eyes. "You could still do it, you know. Apply for next fall. You're only 30. People start over at 40, 50, 60. You've got time. I don't know if—" "Stop. Stop saying you don't know. You do know. You've always known. You just buried it because other people needed things from you." She grabbed my shoulders. "What do you want, Selena? Not what's practical, not what's safe. What do you actually want?" The answer rose up so fast it startled me. "I want to help people, kids like I was, adults trapped in situations they can't see their way out of. I want my life to mean something more than just surviving other people's chaos." "Then do it. Apply. The worst they can say is no." That night, I pulled up Ohio State's School of Social Work application. Deadline, February 1st, 3 months away. I started filling it out. Monday morning, I walked into the Ridgeway County office expecting whispers and stares. Instead, Carol Henderson, my boss, called me into her office. "Close the door," she said. My stomach dropped. This was it. The conversation where she'd tell me the drama was too much, that the county office needed to maintain a professional image, that maybe it was best if I owe you an apology," Carol said. I blinked. "What?" "I saw your father's post Friday night. I thought—" She sighed. "I thought maybe there was something going on with you. mental health issues, family crisis, something that would affect your work. I was prepared to have a conversation about whether you needed time off. Oh, then I saw your response, and Rachel Morrison's comments, and the documentation. She looked at me with something like respect. Selena, I've worked with you for 6 years. You've never been late, never called in sick, always took on extra work without complaining. Now I know why. You couldn't afford to lose this job. I didn't know what to say. I'm sorry I didn't notice. I'm sorry I didn't ask if you were okay. She slid a folder across her desk. The county has an employee assistance program. Counseling, legal advice, financial planning. It's confidential and free. I think you should use it. Thank you, I managed. And Selena, you're getting a raise. It was already approved before all this happened, but I'm moving up the effective date. You've earned it. I left her office feeling like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. At lunch, Sarah from accounting stopped by my desk. Hey, group of us are going to the Autumn Festival this weekend. You should come. I don't know if... You should come, she repeated more firmly. You've worked here 6 years and never came to a single work event. I always figured you had family stuff. Now I know why. But you don't have to do that anymore. Come, have fun. Be 30. That Saturday, I went to the Ridgeway Autumn Festival. The town square was transformed. White tents lined Main Street, selling everything from homemade candles to kettle corn. Kids ran through the crowd with painted faces. A bluegrass band played on the courthouse steps. The air smelled like cider and cinnamon donuts. I walked through the crowd with Jordan, both of us holding hot apple ciders, and I felt normal, like I was just another person enjoying a fall festival, not the girl whose family drama had been broadcast across social media. We passed the face painting booth, the pie-eating contest, the pumpkin carving station. Then I saw her, Mrs. Patterson, my high school English teacher, standing by a booth selling used books to support the library. She was older than I remembered, grayer hair, reading glasses on a chain, but still had that sharp, observant look. She saw me at the same moment. Her face lit up. Selena Robinson, come here. I approached hesitantly. We hadn't spoken in over 10 years. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like lavender and old books. I've been following the saga online, she said, loud enough that several people turned to look. I wanted to say, I'm proud of you. You are? I taught you in AP English, senior year. Remember your essay about invisible labor? You wrote about your grandmother cleaning houses, how nobody saw the work she did because it happened in private spaces. I vaguely remembered. It had been based on my maternal grandmother who'd died when I was 15. I remember thinking at the time, Mrs. Patterson continued, that you weren't really writing about your grandmother. You were writing about yourself. Her eyes were kind but sad. I should have asked more questions. You couldn't have known. Maybe not, but I saw a brilliant student suddenly stop coming to me for college recommendation letters, saw you change your plans from Ohio State to community college, saw the light go out a little bit. She squeezed my hands. But it's not out now. I can see it. You're fighting back. An older man approached the booth. I recognized him as Mr. Walsh, retired pastor from First Presbyterian. Selena Robinson? He asked. I nodded warily. I saw what your father posted, and I saw your response. He paused. I want to apologize. For what? Your parents were members of my congregation for years. I married them, baptized you, and I saw signs. Times when Verena would mention you were helping out financially. Times when Tristan would brag about not having to worry about money because you were responsible. I thought it was healthy. Multi-generational support. I encouraged it even. He looked genuinely distressed. I should have seen it for what it was. Exploitation masquerading as family values. I'm sorry I validated that instead of questioning it. The apologies kept coming. The baker who'd noticed I always bought the day-old bread. The librarian who'd seen me use the library's internet because ours at home was spotty. The mechanic who'd noticed Verena's car repairs were always paid by me, not Tristram. An entire town had seen pieces of my truth. They just hadn't put them together until I'd laid it out in one undeniable picture. As Jordan and I walked home later, the sun setting orange and gold over Ridgeway, she bumped my shoulder with hers. How does it feel? What? Being seen. Actually seen, for the first time. I thought about it. About Mrs. Patterson's hug, Carol's raise, the apologies from people who'd stayed silent. It feels like coming up for air after holding my breath for 8 years. Jordan smiled. Good, get used to it. This is what normal feels like. Tuesday morning, I was served at work. I'd just sat down at my desk, coffee in hand, when the county office receptionist appeared, looking uncomfortable. Selena, there's someone here to see you. Says it's official business. My stomach clenched. In the lobby stood a man in his 30s wearing a tie and carrying a leather messenger bag. Professional process server. I'd seen enough of them in county offices to recognize one. Selena Marie Robinson? Yes. He handed me a large manila envelope. You've been served. Sign here, please. My hands shook as I signed. He left without another word. The envelope was heavy, official. Inside were legal documents, dense with text and legalese. Civil complaint. Tristram Robinson and Verena Robinson. Plaintiffs versus Selena Marie Robinson. Defendant. I scanned the charges, my vision blurring. Count 1. Financial elder abuse. Ohio Revised Code, Section 5101. 61. Defendant knowingly deprived elderly parents of necessary utilities and financial support, causing physical and emotional harm. Count 2. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Defendant's actions were extreme, outrageous, and caused severe emotional distress requiring medical intervention. Count 3. Civil theft. Defendant removed property belonging to plaintiffs, including furniture, household items, and financial resources from joint accounts. Count 4. Interference with utilities, elder endangerment. Defendant intentionally terminated essential services knowing plaintiffs were vulnerable and dependent. Damages sought. $250,000 plus attorney fees, plus punitive damages. My vision went dark at the edges. Financial elder abuse was a felony in Ohio. If criminal charges followed civil charges, I could face jail time. The attorney listed was Robert Finch, a local lawyer known for aggressive tactics and billboards that said, "I fight for you." I made it to the bathroom before throwing up. Carol found me 20 minutes later, sitting on the floor against the wall, envelope clutched in my hands. Selena, what happened? I showed her the papers. She read them, her expression darkening with each page. This is a slap suit. A what? Strategic lawsuit against public participation. They're suing you to silence you, to punish you for speaking out. She helped me to my feet. These charges are bullshit. You documented everything. You gave them notice. It doesn't matter. Just defending myself will cost thousands. I don't have that kind of money. Then we find you someone who'll work pro bono, or contingency, or... She pulled out her phone. My sister's a lawyer in Columbus. Let me call her. Carol, you don't have to. Yes, I do, because this is exactly what abusers do. They use the system as a weapon. She was already dialing. This ends now. I went home early. Administrative leave, Carol insisted. You can't work while you're in crisis. Take the time. We'll figure this out. Jordan was at work, so I sat alone in her apartment, staring at the lawsuit, reading it over and over. Financial elder abuse. $250,000. Criminal charges possible. I'd done the right thing. I knew I had. But the system didn't care about right. It cared about who had the better lawyer. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Hi, is this Selena Robinson? This is Sarah Brighton from the Legal Aid Society of Columbus. Carol Henderson contacted me about your situation. I spent the next hour on the phone with Sarah Brighton, explaining everything while she took notes. Okay, she said when I finished. First, take a breath. This lawsuit is designed to terrify you, and it's working. But here's what you need to know. These charges won't stick. How can you be sure? Because I've seen this before. Abusive family members use elder abuse laws as weapons against the people they've exploited. It's a classic reversal tactic. But you have documentation. You gave notice. You didn't leave them in actual danger. You gave them time and information to take over their own accounts. What about the criminal charges? Financial elder abuse requires proof of knowingly depriving a vulnerable adult of necessary care. You can prove they weren't vulnerable. They had income. You can prove you gave notice. You can prove they had the means to pay their own bills. No prosecutor would take this case. So what do? You let me handle it. I'm filing a motion to dismiss based on lack of merit. And Selena, we're also filing a counterclaim. For what? Financial exploitation, unjust enrichment, emotional distress. They want to play legal games? Fine, let's play. After we hung up, I sat on Jordan's couch, staring at the wall. I'd thought the hard part was leaving, standing up for myself, telling the truth. I hadn't realized they'd try to destroy me for it. My phone buzzed, text from Tyler. Heard about the lawsuit. Dad's lawyer called my mom asking her to testify that you were always difficult and mentally unstable. She told him to go to hell. Just wanted you to know, some of us are on your side. Another text from Amanda Bristol. Saw the news about the lawsuit. Don't let them intimidate you. You're not alone. Another from Rachel Morrison. If you need a character witness, I'm available. Hang in there. But it wasn't enough. That night, after Jordan came home and made me eat something, after she'd talked me through the panic attack, after she'd assured me for the 100th time that it would be okay, I finally broke. Really broke. I sobbed into Jordan's shoulder, 8 years of held-back tears pouring out all at once. I gave them everything, I choked out. I tried so hard. I thought if I just kept helping, kept proving I loved them, eventually it would be enough. Eventually they'd see me. Why wasn't I enough? Jordan held me tighter. Because enough was never the goal. Control was. They needed you dependent and grateful and silent. The moment you stopped being those things, you became the enemy. What if I lose? What if the judge believes them? You won't. Sarah knows what she's doing. And Selena, even if the worst happened, even if you lost every dollar and had to start over, you'd still be free. That's what they can't take from you. I wanted to believe her. I tried. But that night, lying on the couch in the dark, I imagined worst-case scenarios. Jail time, criminal record, losing my job, becoming exactly the villain my father had painted me as. I didn't sleep. Wednesday morning, Sarah Brighton called with an update. I filed the motion to dismiss. We'll have a hearing in 3 weeks, but Selena, I need to prepare you for something. What? Your parents' lawyer is good, aggressive. He's going to paint you as a cold-hearted daughter who abandoned vulnerable elderly parents. He's going to use your social media posts against you, claim they prove you were angry and vindictive. My heart sank. So I shouldn't have posted the truth? No, you absolutely should have. But in court, truth and perception are different things. We need to control the narrative. She paused. I'm going to need you to get statements from everyone who's offered to vouch for you. Rachel Morrison, your boss, former teachers, neighbors, anyone who can testify to the pattern of exploitation. Okay. And Selena? I pulled your parents' financial records, public records, bankruptcy filings, court judgments. Your father filed for bankruptcy in 2015. Your mother has $15,000 in credit card debt, mostly QVC and shopping networks. They're not destitute. They're financially irresponsible. How does that help me? Because it proves they didn't need your money to survive. They just preferred spending theirs on other things and letting you cover the essentials. That's not you abandoning vulnerable elders. That's them exploiting you. Something clicked into place, a piece I'd been missing. They weren't struggling. They were choosing. Exactly, and we're going to prove it. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah built our case. Testimony from Rachel Morrison about Tristram's bragging, financial analysis showing their income was sufficient, evidence of Tristram's gambling, she'd pulled records from Scioto Downs racetrack, evidence of Verena's shopping addiction, my 8 years of payment records, character witnesses from my employer, former teachers, and neighbors. She also filed our counterclaim, Count 1, unjust enrichment plaintiffs accepted $136,000 in financial support from defendant under false pretenses of need. Count 2, financial exploitation of adult child plaintiffs systematically manipulated defendant into providing financial support through emotional coercion. Count 3, Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiff's sudden eviction and subsequent public defamation caused severe emotional harm. Damages sought, $136,000 plus emotional distress damages. We probably won't get the full amount, Sarah told me. Courts are reluctant to make parents pay back adult children, but the point is to show the judge who the real victim is here. The day before the hearing, Sarah called with unexpected news. Verena wants to talk. What? Her lawyer contacted me. She wants to meet, without Tristram, without lawyers, just you and her. My first instinct was no, absolutely not. It was a trap. But Sarah said, I think you should do it, in a public place, with Jordan present if you want. Because here's the thing. If Verena is willing to testify for us instead of against us, their entire case falls apart. Why would she do that? I don't know, but let's find out. The conference room at Robert Finch's office smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, a long table that felt like a barrier between two warring sides. I sat next to Sarah Brighton, my hands folded in my lap to hide the shaking. Across from us, Tristram, Verena, and Robert Finch, a man in his 50s with slicked-back hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. This was the pre-trial deposition, 3 weeks before the actual hearing, a chance for both sides to gather testimony under oath. Sarah had prepared me. Answer only what's asked. Don't volunteer information. Don't get emotional. And Selena, no matter what your father says, remember, he's trying to provoke you. Don't give him the satisfaction. The court reporter, a tired-looking woman with a steno machine, swore me in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Robert Finch smiled that predatory smile. Ms. Robinson, let's start simply. You lived with your parents from August 2016 to October 2024, correct? Correct. And during that time, did you pay rent? I paid 60% of the mortgage. That's more than market rent for Just answer the question. Did you have a formal rental agreement? No. So you lived there at their generosity. No lease, no legal obligation. Sarah interrupted. Objection. Mischaracterizes the arrangement. The witness can clarify. Finch waved a hand. Fine. Ms. Robinson, why did you move home after college? I glanced at Sarah. She nodded. My father sent me an email saying my mother was ill and they needed me home. He said family takes care of family. And you moved home out of love and duty, to care for your sick mother. I moved home because I was told it was an emergency. My mother wasn't actually sick. Finch's eyebrow raised. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof your mother wasn't ill? Sarah slid a folder across the table. Medical records from 2016 and 2017. Annual checkup, normal. Blood work, normal. The only visit related to the supposed illness was for fatigue, treated with iron supplements. Finch barely glanced at it. Fatigue can be debilitating. Perhaps your parents were simply concerned. Or perhaps, Sarah said coolly, they needed someone to pay their bills and fabricated a medical emergency to guilt her into coming home. Finch ignored her and turned back to me. Let's discuss finances. You claim you paid various household expenses, but these were voluntary contributions, correct? No one forced you. I was told repeatedly that if I didn't help, they'd lose the house, that we'd be homeless, that it was my responsibility as their daughter. But no one held a gun to your head. Emotional manipulation doesn't require weapons. Emotional manipulation, Finch repeated, making air quotes. Or family members asking for help during hard times. Sarah cut in. Let's talk about those hard times. Mr. Finch, I'd like to question your clients about their financial situation. Finch's smile tightened. That's not relevant to... It's directly relevant. If they're claiming they were dependent on Ms. Robinson's support, their income and spending patterns are absolutely relevant. The judge's preliminary ruling had given us the right to discovery. Finch couldn't refuse. Sarah turned to Tristram. Mr. Robinson, what's your current monthly income? Tristram shifted in his seat. I get disability, about $1,800 a month. And you've been receiving that since 2015, correct? Yeah. Mrs. Robinson, your income? Farina's voice was barely audible. I work part-time at Walmart, about $1,200 a month. Sarah wrote numbers on her legal pad. So combined, $3,000 per month. Your mortgage is $1,350. That leaves $1,650 for utilities, food, insurance, and other expenses. Tight, but manageable, wouldn't you say? Tristram's face reddened. You don't know what it's like. I'm getting to that. Mr. Robinson, do you have any hobbies? What's that got to do with? Please, answer the question. I go to the track sometimes, Scioto Downs. It's social, you know, keeps me active. Sarah slid another document across the table. These are your gambling records from Scioto Downs, obtained through legal discovery. You spend an average of $500 per month on horse racing, sometimes more. The room went silent. Finch leaned forward. That's his personal money. He's entitled. Mrs. Robinson, Sarah continued, not missing a beat. How much credit card debt do you currently carry? Farina looked at her hands. I'm not sure exactly. According to the credit reports we pulled, with your legal consent as part of discovery, you have $14,800 in credit card debt, primarily from QVC, Home Shopping Network, and Amazon. Would you say you have a shopping problem? It's not a problem. Sometimes I buy things. An average of $400 per month in non-essential purchases while your daughter paid your utilities. Finch called for a break. 15 minutes. Tristram stormed out, slamming the door. Finch followed, phone already to his ear. Farina stayed. She sat across the table, small and diminished, twisting a tissue in her hands. Sarah and I exchanged glances. I need to speak with Selena, Farina said quietly. Alone. Please. Sarah stood. I'll be right outside. You don't have to do this, Selena. I know. When the door closed, silence filled the space between us. 8 years of words unsaid. 30 years of a relationship built on guilt and duty and a love that only ever flowed one direction. I'm going to drop the lawsuit, Farina said. I stared at her. What? Tristram will be furious, but I can't do this anymore. I can't sit in that chair and lie and pretend we were the victims. Tears spilled down her cheeks. We weren't victims, Selena. You were. Something in my chest cracked. Not healing. Not yet, but breaking open in a different way. Why? My voice came out harsh. Why now? Why not 8 years ago? Why not when he first suggested using me? Why not on my birthday when he told me to leave? Because I was scared. She finally looked at me. Really looked. I've been scared my whole life. Scared of being alone. Scared of admitting I married a man who stopped being good years ago. Scared of facing the fact that I enabled him, that I let him use our daughter because it was easier than standing up to him. Mom, every time you paid a bill I felt sick. Every time you sacrificed something for us, canceled a trip, worked overtime, put your own life on hold, I knew it was wrong, but I told myself it was temporary, that we'd pay you back, that you understood family helps family. But you never did pay me back. No, we never did. Because Tristram would spend it on the track or I'd spend it on QVC, and we'd tell ourselves we deserved it, that we'd worked hard our whole lives, that you were young and could afford it. She crumpled the tissue. We convinced ourselves we were entitled to your money, to your youth, to your future. The words hung between us, raw and true. I chose my comfort over your happiness. I chose staying married over protecting my daughter. That's not what a mother does. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry, Selena. I'm so sorry I let him do this. I'm sorry I helped him do this. I wanted to stay angry. I wanted to hold on to the righteous fury that had carried me through the past month. But sitting across from my mother, really seeing her for the first time, I saw something I'd missed before. She was a victim too, just one who'd made a choice to become complicit rather than face her fear. What are you going to do? I asked. I'm testifying for you, against him. I'm telling the judge everything, the gambling, the manipulation, the way we used you. She met my eyes. And then I'm leaving him. I already found an apartment, near the senior center. I start full-time at Walmart next week. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I've spent 30 years letting someone else make my decisions, letting fear run my life. You were brave enough to walk away at 30. I should have been brave enough to walk away at 25. She stood, smoothing her skirt with shaking hands. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to have a relationship after this. I just wanted you to know. I'm proud of you for being stronger than I ever was. The deposition resumed, but everything had changed. Verena's lawyer, a different attorney, not Finch, spoke first. Mrs. Robinson has decided to withdraw from the lawsuit. She'll be providing testimony in support of the defendant. Tristram exploded. What? Verena, what the hell are you? Finch put a hand on his arm. Mr. Robinson, I need to speak with you, privately. Now. They left. Through the conference room window, I could see them in the hallway. Tristram gesturing wildly. Finch shaking his head, looking increasingly frustrated. Sarah leaned over and whispered, This is good for us. Very good. A plaintiff withdrawing and flipping is devastating to their case. 10 minutes later, Finch returned alone. My client wishes to continue with the lawsuit. Without his wife as co-plaintiff? Sarah asked. Interesting strategy. Mrs. Robinson was clearly coerced by her daughter's manipulation. Coerced? She just gave sworn testimony stating she's testifying for us. You want to claim the defense coerced a witness during your deposition, in your office with your client present? Finch's jaw tightened. We're proceeding. See you in court. After they left, Sarah turned to me with something like admiration. I've been practicing law for 15 years. I've never seen a case flip like that. Your mother just eviscerated their entire narrative. What happens now? Now? Now we finish building our case. We have Verena's testimony, Rachel Morrison's testimony, financial records proving they weren't dependent, medical records proving they lied about your mother's illness. She gathered her files. Selena, I think we're going to win this. But winning didn't feel like I thought it would. It didn't feel triumphant or satisfying. It felt like standing in the ruins of something that had been broken for a very long time, finally seeing it clearly for what it was. 3 weeks later, I walked into Ridgway County Courthouse wearing the only suit I owned, a navy blue blazer and pants I'd bought for job interviews years ago. The courtroom was small. Wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lights, that particular smell of old paper and anxiety that seemed to permeate every legal building. Judge Patricia Whitmore presided, a woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled into a tight bun and eyes that had clearly seen every variation of human dysfunction. Tristram sat at the plaintiff's table with Robert Finch, looking smaller than I remembered. Older. His shoulders hunched in a way that might have been designed to look vulnerable. Verena sat on our side, behind me in the gallery, a silent statement of loyalty that meant more than I'd expected. Also in the gallery, Jordan, Rachel Morrison, Carol Henderson, Tyler, and a handful of neighbors and former teachers who'd offered to testify if needed. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Whitmore. We stood. The judge entered, settled into her chair, and surveyed both sides with the expression of someone deeply tired of people's nonsense. Be seated. This is case number 2024-CV-8847, Robinson v. Robinson, civil complaint alleging financial elder abuse and related charges. She looked over her reading glasses at Finch. Counselor, you may begin. Finch stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Your Honor, this case is about a daughter who systematically abandoned her elderly, vulnerable parents, Tristram Robinson, age 57, and his wife Verena. Oh. He paused, consulting his notes. I'm informed Mrs. Robinson has withdrawn from the suit. I'm aware, Judge Whitmore said dryly. She's listed as a defense witness. Continue. Finch recovered quickly. Tristram Robinson opened his home to his daughter after college, provided her shelter, food, support. In return, she paid some household expenses, which she characterizes as exploitation, but which was simply a reasonable contribution to a household she benefited from. Then, without warning, she canceled utilities and financial support, leaving Mr. Robinson, who survives on disability income, in the dark. Literally, she... Counselor, Judge Whitmore interrupted. Did the defendant give any notice before terminating these services? Finch hesitated. There was some communication, but How much notice? 30 days. 30 days is standard for most utilities and rental agreements. What was inadequate about that time frame? The manner, Your Honor. It was vindictive, designed to— That's argumentative, stick to facts. Finch called Tristram to the stand. My father walked to the witness box with careful steps, like a man trying to appear older and frailer than he was. He wore a button-down shirt I recognized, one I'd bought him 2 Christmases ago. After being sworn in, Finch led him through his version of events. Mr. Robinson, can you describe your relationship with your daughter before this conflict? We were close. Very close. Tristram's voice wavered slightly. She was our only child. We gave her everything, made sacrifices so she could have opportunities we never had. What kind of sacrifices? I worked double shifts at the factory to pay for her school supplies, her activities. When she went to college, we helped however we could. When she needed to come home, we welcomed her. No questions asked. And when she lived with you, what was the arrangement? She helped with bills. We thought it was fair. She was living there, using utilities, eating our food. We never asked for much, just help, like family does. Did you ever threaten her? Coerce her into paying? Never. It was always voluntary. She offered. Sarah made a note on her legal pad. Mr. Robinson, how did you feel when she suddenly cut off all support? Tristram's face contorted. Devastated. Betrayed. We didn't understand what we'd done wrong. I had chest pains from the stress. Ended up in the emergency room thinking I was dying. And has she reached out since? Tried to reconcile? No. She blocked our numbers. Won't talk to us. It's like we don't exist anymore. Finch nodded sympathetically. No further questions. Judge Whitmore looked at Sarah. Cross-examination? Sarah stood, and something in her posture reminded me of a predator who'd been waiting patiently for her turn. Mr. Robinson, you testified you worked double shifts to support your daughter. When did you last work full-time? Tristram shifted. I've been on disability since 2015. So 9 years ago. And before that? I worked at the factory until I got injured. According to your disability application, you claimed a back injury, but you're physically capable of going to Scioto Downs racetrack multiple times per week, correct? That's different. I'm just sitting— You're physically capable of sitting at a racetrack but not of working a desk job? Finch objected. Argumentative. Sustained. Rephrase, Ms. Brighton. Mr. Robinson, how much do you spend monthly at Scioto Downs? I don't know. Maybe $100. Sarah picked up a document. These are your players' card records from the track. You spent $487 in September, $623 in August, $510 in July. That's an average of $540 per month on gambling. Is that correct? Tristram's face went red. That's my money. I can spend it how I want. Absolutely. But while you were spending $500 a month on gambling, your daughter was paying your electric bill, your water bill, 60% of your mortgage. Does that seem fair? She lived there. She should contribute. She contributed $1,300 per month. Market rent for a room in Ridgeway is about $500, so she paid $800 more than fair market value. Where did that extra money go? Silence. Mr. Robinson, you testified you welcomed your daughter home, no questions asked, when she needed to return. But you sent her an email in January 2017 claiming her mother was seriously ill. Was that true? Verena was having health problems. According to medical records, your wife had a single visit for fatigue, treated with iron supplements. Would you characterize that as seriously ill? She was tired all the time. We were worried. Or did you need someone to help pay bills and you fabricated a medical emergency to guilt her into moving home? That's not— I wouldn't— You testified you never threatened or coerced her, but you told her repeatedly that if she didn't help, you'd lose the house, correct? That was true. We couldn't afford— You receive $1,800 monthly in disability. Your wife earns $1,200. Your mortgage is $1,350. That leaves $1,650 for other expenses. You could have afforded the house. You just preferred spending your money on other things. Tristram's hands clenched on the witness stand. You don't know what it's like. I know exactly what it's like, Mr. Robinson. It's called being an adult. It's called financial responsibility, something you avoided by exploiting your daughter. Sarah paused. One last question. On October 18th, your daughter's 30th birthday, you told her to leave immediately. Her bags were already packed. You'd gone through her room and packed her belongings without her knowledge, correct? She was 30 years old. Time to grow up. And the $500 your wife tried to give her, what happened to that? I took it back. She didn't deserve. You took money your wife was trying to give your daughter on her birthday. The same daughter who'd just paid your bills for 8 years. Sarah let that hang. No further questions. The defense calls Verena Robinson. My mother walked to the stand slowly. She looked smaller than ever in her Walmart uniform. She'd come straight from work. Her hands trembled as she was sworn in. Sarah's voice was gentle. Mrs. Robinson, you were originally a plaintiff in this lawsuit. Why did you withdraw? Because it's not true. What we claimed. Selena didn't abandon us. We used her. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Judge Whitmore's eyes sharpened with interest. Can you explain what you mean by used her? Verena's voice was barely audible. When she was about to graduate college, she had plans. She was going to Ohio State for social work. She was so excited. Tears began to fall. Tristram and I were behind on bills. The mortgage was late. We panicked. So Tristram sent her that email about me being sick. It wasn't true. I just had low iron. Why lie? Because we knew she'd come home if she thought I needed her. And once she was home, paying bills, it was easy to keep her there, to keep telling her we needed help. That family takes care of family. Did you need her financial help? No, we had enough income. But Tristram liked gambling. I liked shopping. Having Selena pay the bills meant we could spend our money on other things. She looked directly at me, tears streaming. We stole 8 years from her whole 20s, and we told ourselves it was okay because she was family. Mrs. Robinson, whose idea was it to kick her out? Tristram's. He said she was getting uppity, asking too many questions about why we couldn't pay our own bills. He wanted her gone before she stopped paying completely. And the lawsuit? Tristram's idea. His lawyer said we could punish her for speaking out, make her look bad, maybe get money out of her to make it go away. Verena's voice broke. I went along with it because I always went along with what he wanted. I was too scared to say no. But I can't do it anymore. I can't keep hurting my daughter to protect a man who never protected anyone but himself. Sarah let that sit for a moment. What's your relationship with your daughter now? I don't know if we have one. I don't expect her to forgive me. I just want her to know I'm sorry, and I'm trying to be better. I left Tristram. I got my own apartment. I'm working full-time. I'm doing what I should have done 30 years ago. No further questions. Finch declined to cross-examine. What could he say? Judge Whitmore removed her glasses and looked at both tables. I'm going to rule from the bench. I've seen enough. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mr. Robinson, your lawsuit is dismissed. Not only is it without merit, it's a transparent attempt to weaponize the legal system against someone who had every right to protect herself financially. Tristram started to protest. The judge silenced him with a look. You received disability income. Your wife worked. You had sufficient funds to pay your own bills. The fact that you chose to spend money on gambling and shopping while your daughter covered necessities is not her problem. It's yours. Furthermore, the evidence shows you deliberately misled your daughter about your wife's health to manipulate her into moving home. You exploited her sense of family obligation for 8 years. Then you evicted her without warning and attempted to publicly shame her when she spoke the truth. The judge turned to me. Ms. Robinson, I'm granting your counterclaim in part. Mr. Tristram Robinson is ordered to pay you $45,000, not the full amount you requested, because courts are reluctant to enforce full repayment in family situations. But this is not a family situation. This is exploitation. She looked at Tristram coldly. Payment plan of $500 monthly for 90 months. This judgment is enforceable. If you miss payments, Ms. Robinson can garnish your disability income. Additionally, I'm granting a 2-year protective order. Mr. Robinson, you are not to contact Ms. Robinson in any way. No phone calls, no texts, no social media, no showing up at her workplace. Violation will result in contempt charges. She looked at Verena. Mrs. Robinson, no protective order is issued against you, as the defendant did not request one. That's between you and your daughter. The gavel came down. Court is adjourned, 6 months later. March in Ohio was unpredictable. One day snow, the next day 50 degrees and sunny. Today was sunny. I stood in my apartment, my own apartment, and looked around at the life I'd built. It wasn't much. Second-hand furniture, plants I was learning to keep alive. Walls painted pale blue because I could paint them any color I wanted. Books on shelves. A laptop on a desk. A calendar with actual plans that were mine. My job at the Women's Business Association was everything I'd hoped. $52,000 a year. Meaningful work helping women start businesses, escape bad situations, find independence. Carol had written me a glowing recommendation. I'd applied to Ohio State's MSW program in January. The acceptance letter had come last week. Dear Ms. Robinson, we are pleased to offer you admission to the School of Social Work. I'd start in the fall, 31 years old, finally pursuing the dream I'd buried at 22. The $45,000 judgment? Tristram had made 3 payments so far, $1,500 total. I didn't care if he paid the rest. The money wasn't the point, the validation was. My phone buzzed, text from Jordan. Brunch tomorrow? I'm bringing my new girlfriend. You'll love her. Another text from Tyler. Beer tonight? I want to hear about grad school. Another from Rachel Morrison. Book club next Thursday. We're reading a memoir about toxic families. Thought you might have insights. Dude, I had a life, a real one, with friends and plans and a future that belonged to me. The guilt still came sometimes, late at night, whispering that I should have tried harder, done more, been better. But therapy was helping. Every other Thursday with Dr. Chin. Wait, can't use Chin. With Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a therapist who specialized in family trauma. She'd said something in our last session that stuck with me. You can't save people who are drowning if they're holding you underwater. Eventually, you have to choose. Go down with them or swim away and hope they learn to swim too. I was at Ridgeway Coffee House on a Saturday morning working on a grad school application essay when I saw her. Verena stood in line wearing jeans and a simple sweater. Her hair was shorter. She looked different, not younger, but lighter somehow. Our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she gestured hesitantly to the empty chair at my table. Can I? I nodded. She ordered her coffee, black, no sugar, which was new, and sat down across from me. Silence. Not uncomfortable, just cautious. How are you? She asked finally. Good. Really good, actually. I closed my laptop. I got into Ohio State, social work program. Her face lit up with genuine joy. Selena, that's wonderful. That's what you always wanted. Yeah, 10 years late, but I shrugged. Better late than never. I'm proud of you. More silence. I studied her, really looked. How are you? I asked. Better than I've been in years. Scared, but free. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I'm working full-time at Walmart. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work and my own paycheck. I got a little apartment near the senior center. I joined a book club. I'm learning to be just me, not Tristram's wife, not defined by someone else. Have you talked to him? He calls sometimes. I don't answer. She looked down. The divorce will be final next month. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But something softer. Understanding, maybe. Mom, I don't know if we can have what we had before. That relationship, it wasn't healthy. For either of us. I know. She met my eyes. I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. And I'm trying to do better. To be better. That's all any of us can do. She nodded, standing slowly. I should go. But Selena, I meant what I said in court. I'm proud of you. For being stronger than I ever was. She left her coffee half finished and walked out. I watched her go, feeling something I hadn't expected. Hope. Not for us, not for some fairy tale reconciliation, but hope that maybe she'd find herself, that maybe it wasn't too late for her either. My 31st birthday fell on a Wednesday. Jordan threw a small party at my apartment, 5 friends. Homemade cake, vanilla frosting, happy birthday Selena, written in perfect script because Jordan had practiced. We sat on my second-hand couch in mismatched chairs, eating cake and talking about nothing important. Tyler told bad jokes. Rachel shared gossip from the old neighborhood. Sarah from work complained about her dating life. Normal. Beautifully, perfectly normal. When everyone left, I sat by my window, looking out at Ridgeway's downtown, the same town I'd grown up in, the same streets I'd walked as a child, believing family meant safety and home meant love. I'd learned the hard way that family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up for you, who sees you, who doesn't use your love as a weapon. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it. Then I saw the message. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I hope it's everything you deserve. Mom. Just that. No demands. No guilt. No requests. I stared at it for a long moment, then saved the number. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Maybe someday we'd have coffee again. Maybe someday we'd build something new. Not a mother-daughter relationship, but something honest. Something equal. Or maybe we wouldn't. Maybe this distance was healthier for both of us. Either way, I was okay. I looked at the cake on my counter. 31 candles, all lit, none missing. I thought about the girl I'd been a year ago, 30 years old, sitting in a dark room with a smashed cake, feeling disposable and used and utterly alone. That girl had been brave enough to walk away from everything she knew. This girl, 31, sitting in her own apartment, surrounded by the life she'd built, was brave enough to keep going. I blew out the candles, not making a wish, not hoping for things to be different, just grateful for what was. Epilogue. 3 years later, I graduated with my MSW from Ohio State. Verena came to the ceremony. We weren't close, probably never would be, but we were learning to be honest with each other. That was enough. Tristan made sporadic payments on the judgment. I stopped checking after the first year. Some debts can't be repaid in money. I took a job at a nonprofit helping young adults escape financial abuse. Turned out I had a lot of experience in that area, and sometimes, late at night, I get messages from strangers on social media. People who read my story, who saw themselves in it. They all ask the same thing. How did you find the courage to leave? I tell them the truth. I didn't find courage. I found a limit, and on the other side of that limit was a life I got to choose. That's not courage. That's survival. But sometimes survival is enough. Sometimes saving yourself is the bravest thing you can do.